welcome back to the vlog. I haven't done a vlog in who knows how long. I think I recorded some a while back, me and Ida, but I don't think I ever edited the videos, so they never got published. They weren't that good anyway. This one's probably not gonna be that good either. But I did want to do a vlog. I thought it was appropriate. Spoiler alert, we're going to California soon. You'll probably see that in this video at some point. And I wanted to kind of do a vlog. I'm trying to get more into doing creative endeavors, creative activities. So I wanted to do like a fancy kind of cool vlog, at least as cool as I can come up with based on my own lacking creativity, we'll call it that. And I never really travel, I don't go anywhere. I usually just work all the time. So I figured this would be a good opportunity to make something cool and do the vlog. So that's why we're here. But you're gonna see some footage of that soon. But before I get into that, I kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the recent experiences I've had, just some of the different philosophies that I've been kind of thinking of. I won't go too deep into too many in this video. I do want to kind of revive the vlog and kind of give my 2 cents on a bunch of different things as time progresses and as my thoughts change and as I make up my mind and change my mind and, you know, whatever, be a human. One thing I want to talk about that is going to go against what most of these productivity gurus and what most of these people, these entrepreneurs and all that stuff talk about is the idea of just taking time for fun. I've seen so many different people like Hamza, people like, not so much Gary Vee, every once in a while Gary Vee, at least back in the past, but people like Gary Vee, you see people like a certain influencer that drives a Bugatti that I will not name, because if I name him, I might get banned or I might get like what is it called? A strike on my account, something like that. So I don't want to say his name, but I'm pretty sure you can tell who I'm referring to. People like that, I always hear them say,
you shouldn't play video games, you should work all the time.
All that stuff. And for a little bit, that made sense to me. Usually what I do whenever I hear people talk about stuff, I try to like internalize it and I try to figure out, does this make sense? And I try to break apart the concept to the best of my ability and challenge it in my head, almost like debate every part of it. And I try to debate on both sides of the fence. So what I do is if someone says, for example, you should never play video games because if you play video games, you won't be very effective. You won't be very competitive in life. I think about a concept like that. And what I do is I say, okay, what are the arguments towards playing video games when it comes to being competitive in life? What are the arguments against playing video games to be competitive in life? And I try to have those 2 arguments match against each other until I figure out what the best course of action is or what makes the most sense. And the more I thought about that concept, the more I realized that that concept is bullshit. It doesn't really make that much sense. And I know I'm probably starting off the video in a crazy way, like you're probably expecting something fancy. Not yet. Just philosophy time. The reason why I think that philosophy is garbage in the grand scheme of things is 1, everyone has a different idea of what they determine to be success. And I feel like if you were to sit there and talk to people like the Hamzas or the top G's and the Bugattis, they would disagree because they believe that their view of success is the only view of success that should exist. They would think that in order to be successful, you need to have X amount of money, you need to have X amount of women maybe, you need to have X amount of luxury things, houses, cars, whatever. Those things are fine, by the way. I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm saying this because I know some dude in the comments is gonna see up to this point in the video and they're gonna be like, oh, something like that, even though they probably have no thumbnail on their YouTube photo and probably have less than $5 in their own bank account, but that's cool. I'm saying it because I know someone out there is watching this and they're thinking about typing. I know who you are. I'm looking right at you. But the idea of success is very subjective. There are some people in history that were very happy to just have a loving family and to just exist with their family and not be poor. I'm not saying you need to be poor, but be well off, be above your means. And I've said this for years actually, that you don't need to be rich, you just need to be living above your means. I think that's fine. And I think for some people that is plenty successful. If you were to listen too closely to certain influencers though, they would say, no, that's not enough. You need to have the cars, you need to have the women, you need to have the excess wealth. And I think for them, their strategy works very well. Like if you want to be the kind of person that wants to be like a multi-billionaire, then sure, you might need to work your face off endlessly, 24/7, play no video games, not take any days off, not take breaks, whatever. But then my counter argument is, do most people want that? And when I ask a question like that, if you're watching this, I want you to be really honest with yourself. Would you really want that? If I could snap my fingers right now and give you the life of a billionaire that you know, would you actually want their lives? And this is assuming, and like, you have to really sit there and really consider this. Do you even know enough about someone's life, one of these billionaires that you idolize, or even multimillionaires' lives that you idolize, to accurately say whether or not you'd be willing to switch with them? Even people like Alex Ramosi, for example. And I like Alex Ramosi, nothing against him. Dude works all the time, it seems. But his life also seems a bit boring, at least in my personal opinion. In the grand scheme of what I would like to do in my life, it's very boring. And I think he even went on an interview and said his whole life is pretty much he works until it's late, he goes to the gym, and he hangs out with Layla, and he watches Netflix or a movie. And he said that's his whole day. That's all he does. He doesn't hang out with friends. He doesn't really hang out with family members. He doesn't have pets, which is fine for him. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's totally fine for him. But my thing is, for me, that's a boring life. I wouldn't want that life. So why would I emulate what he's doing super carefully? And again, this goes back to this idea of like never playing video games. Because I sat there and thought to myself, there's a quote or kind of a story that I heard a while back. And it's a simple story, but it made me think about a lot of stuff. And I'm probably gonna screw up the story, but the story goes something along the lines of, there was a sailor sitting on a beach just relaxing. Hands behind his head, just laying on the sand, relaxing. A businessman comes up to him and says, "While you're here relaxing, you could be out working." And the sailor kind of says, "Well, why would I be working? What is there to gain from working?" The businessman says, "Well, if you work, you can make more money. And eventually, if you make more money, you can get more boats. And with more boats, you can catch more fish. And with more fish, that'll leave even more money. And then with more money, you can hire more sailors. They can fish on your behalf. And then eventually, you can make a whole empire of boats, a whole sailing or fishing empire." And the guy says, "Oh, that sounds cool. But what do I get by having this empire of boats, having this empire of sailors to fish on my behalf?" And the businessman says, "Well, if you have this empire, you can eventually retire, and then you'd have all the time in the world to sit on the beach and relax." And the sailor's like, "Well, I already sit on the beach and relax as much as I want because I'm content with everything that I have. So I've already achieved the goal, right?" And the businessman's kind of like, "Huh, maybe." And it just made me think. It's an interesting story because it makes me think about how we kind of do things in a very roundabout way. Like, again, I want to make this clear because someone's gonna, I know some guy in the comments is gonna see this with this no thumbnail, probably some 12-year-old loser at his house, just sitting there trying to find a way to argue with people, even though he doesn't understand how anything about the world works. He's gonna sit there, he's gonna say, "You need to be rich, you need to have money, you need to be Iman Gadzhi, you need to be Hamza, you need to be all these different influencers flaunting their wealth." Nothing's wrong with that, but you don't need it. And in a weird way, you're almost kind of doing like a roundabout strategy to achieve what you could just do today. Does that make sense? Again, like the sailor, he's relaxing on the beach. He's doing what he wants to do. He's content with the life he has. Some other guy's telling him, "You should be living my standard of life." He's like, "Well, why? What do I get from living your standard of life?" And the guy says, "Well, if you live my standard of life, you get to relax on the beach." And the guy's like, "I'm already doing the relaxing on the beach part. I've already done it. You're the one who's behind me because I've already found the keys to be happy. You're the one trying to do all these other things to get happiness, which you don't even have yourself." That's the way I see it. Again, I know this is probably like a huge tangent because I started off by saying I started playing video games. But I say this because a lot of times in life, at least when I listen to what people say and what they talk about when it comes to fulfillment and enjoying life, a lot of it boils down to, I just want to be content with the days I have. I want to be just doing things that make me happy. And I've heard some people even argue like, your life's not supposed to be about happiness. Fuck happiness. It's like, well, that's not true either. Again, me debating different points. Because most of the things you do in life ultimately are most of the things you do in life are either you running away from uncomfort or moving towards pleasure, some kind of form of pleasure. If you're the kind of person that doesn't want to be broke, it's because the pain of being broke is high. So you're running away from that pain. If you're someone, and some people get stuck in like the loop of it or the habit of it, they just keep trying to go on and on. Maybe they forget why they started getting money in the first place. That's a whole different story. But most of the things you do in life are either to avoid pain or to chase pleasure. Either way, those are just chasing happiness. Those are just another form of chasing happiness. Now, again, on the extreme end, you have the people that say fuck happiness and they just get endless money. But then it's like, well, what's the point? There's no reason to do that. You have all the money you could ever have, and yet you're not happy, you're not fulfilled. So you're not really all that smart, are you? You're taking this foolish strategy to achieve nothing, because you'll die, you'll be forgotten. The money will go back into the pot, so to speak. And then what does all that work that you've been doing all your life amounted to? Nothing. It's true, it's very true. I know it sounds sad, but it's true. So I started playing video games again because I thought about the happiest times of my life. There are two times in particular, two like eras, I'll call them, in particular that made me the happiest in my life. And I've been trying to really like find a way to get all those things. And I'll tell you what those two times were. The first time I can recall that I was at peak happiness was probably my sophomore year of college. My sophomore year of college. The thing that made college, sophomore year of college in particular, so happy for me was, one, I had a good group of friends around me. We always hung out together. Like I can recall to this day, we'd wake up and be like, hey dude, we're gonna get breakfast. Let's go get breakfast together. And we'd all go get breakfast together as a group. 3, 4, 5 of us. And we just sit there and talk. We bullshit, have a couple laughs, just talk and hang out. We'd play video games together and just socialize and hang out. Do you remember, depending on like how old you are, there was a time where like you could go to your friend's house and play like N64 or like PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, Dreamcast, whatever. And there was no wireless way to play. Like you couldn't use Wi-Fi to play with your friend who lives in like a different country or a different state. You had to be like in the same room and play on the exact same console. And as inconvenient as that sounds, that was way more fun. Playing Halo, for example, with your boys in a room together, or playing like Call of Duty with your boys in a room together is exponentially more fun than playing Call of Duty or Halo over Wi-Fi, or playing like some game over Wi-Fi. There's just something different about it. Something different about being in a room with your friends and talking shit, getting mad, raging at the game, you know, whatever it is, playing together. It's this different feeling. It cannot be replicated by the internet. So that was one thing that made sophomore year like one of the peaks of happiness in my life. Second thing, we didn't overcomplicate basic activities. What I mean by this is, it could be a Friday night, and back then we would say to each other, let's do something. And immediately we could find something to do. Now that thing might be just watching a movie, getting Chinese food. I remember that, like, this sounds crazy. That was one of the most fun things ever. Just like it was a Friday night and you just want to get like Chinese food with your boys and watch a movie. That was by far one of the most fun things ever, because it was just something about that experience that was great. But it wasn't complicated. Or you go to the mall, watch a movie. There's like some rinky-dink mall in my sophomore year, and there's nothing at that mall. There were like no stores at all, and there was like a movie theater, and that was about it. That was like the most fun thing at the mall, was the movie theater. But it was something fun about like setting a plan with your friends, saying like, hey, 8 o'clock, there's this new movie out. We haven't seen the trailers, but the title sounds good. Let's go watch it. And your boys are like, there's nothing else to do. Why not? You just go, you all pack into one car, 4, 5, or 6 of you. You drive down to the movie theaters, you watch it, and you come back, and for like 3 or 4 hours, you talk about the movie that you just watched. That was like peak fun. I would say like really what it comes down to is you're just hanging out with people, with friends. You're socializing with friends. That's really it. You're bonding with people. That's what made it fun. Second time in my life that was super fun was, I think it was my, I forget what year it was. Maybe it was 2014-ish, something like that. The summer of like 2014. And I had a house with my one friend. We kind of had a house the entire summer to ourselves. And we would just throw parties and like work and hang out, whatever, like watch TV together. Again, it was just socializing. It was just people bonding and hanging out. And that was to me the most fun thing you could ever possibly do. I think if you were to say to me, like having my experiences now, Lenny, I can give you the opportunity to relive those experiences, or I can give you like $5 million in cash. A part of me from a logical standpoint might say the 5 million, because with the 5 million, maybe I could like pay to get my friends to hang out with me. Not really, probably in real life. So I'd probably take reliving those experiences, because they were like the peak fun. Like there's no bar that can replicate that. There's no club that can replicate that. There's no cars that can replicate that. There's no luxury item that you can possibly buy that replicates the feeling of just bonding with your friends and just hanging out in like a super social close setting. It cannot be replicated. And the crazy part is it doesn't require money. And I feel like as we age, the downside about all this is that all these things just become more difficult. And they're not difficult because they have to be difficult. They're difficult because people make them difficult. There's been so many times where I've reached out to my friends and I've said like, hey, let's go hang out. And they're like, oh, maybe. It's like, maybe why? It's like, well, I might want to go out to the bar tonight, or I might want to go to the club tonight, or I might want to do this one thing. It's like, if you don't know what you want to do, cool. Just say you don't want to do it. Just say you don't want to hang out. But don't sit there and try to rank 10 different experiences and figure out which is the best experience when you don't have any, you haven't decided on any of those 10 already. Just like pick one. It's just annoying. But, so I know this is like super long-winded, but that's the reason why I started playing video games again. I'm trying to go back to the things that made me have the peak levels of fun. And as I kind of look at other people, seeing how they kind of progress in their own lives, I think most people are kind of deviating from the things that truly will make them happy. Besides video games, I've also been trying to like draw more. I want to get back into music. I just want to like learn new things. And I feel like when you're young, you have that certain like open-mindedness to new activities. You have that willingness to challenge yourself, that willingness to try new things that gets lost as you get older, as you kind of become acclimated to this work lifestyle of just going to your job, coming back home, and repeating that same process every single day. You get lazy. And I think with all that is where the happiness kind of seeps out of your life. So, I don't know. I say all this to say, like, a lot of these influencers, they'll say, like, don't play video games, fuck happiness. Screw what they say. Enjoy life. You only live once. Why are you not enjoying life? I'm not saying be reckless. Some people take it to the extremes and they become reckless. I've seen far too many people do that too, where the opposite ends of the extreme, they'll say like, well, money's only meant to be spent just to have fun, which I half agree with. But then what they'll do is they'll spend all of their money on fun experiences. They'll spend all of their money on like traveling or on a vacation or on like a car. Then they have no money at all, $0, -$, all the time. That's not the best decision either, because at some point too, you're gonna dip into that territory of just being stressed. And I think a stressful life is not a happy life. It's not an enjoyable life. If you're stressed 90% of your life and the 10% is enjoyable, it's a mismatch. It's not a good balance. To me, you wanna have like at least a 50-50 where you're stressed 50% of the time, you're having fun 50% of the time. That's a better balance, not ideal, but it's better. Realistically, you'd want like 80-20, I think. I think you'd want 80% of the time to be enjoyable. I'm not saying it needs to be like, you need to be super elated or super ecstatic. I'm saying it needs to be at least enjoyable. And 20% of the time, you can be really stressed out. And I think that's a good ratio because it gives you a bit of contrast. Like, if you only experienced happy experiences, then they wouldn't be happy after a certain period of time. They would just be experiences. And you'd probably get depressed after a while because you would no longer be able to have happy experiences. Like, if you're always at a 10, eventually the 10 is gonna feel like a 5. But since you were actually really objectively speaking more at a 10, you can't go higher. So by default, you're always gonna just be at a 5. I don't know, hopefully that math made sense. Like, I know it's probably a crazy concept to understand. Hopefully not, but I don't know, that's just the way I see it. You do need contrast in life to make things enjoyable. You can't always be enjoying things 24/7. I think if you try to do that, that's what leads people to do things like drugs, like hardcore drugs. They start to like really dive deep into this whole, I need to have a certain emotion or I need to experience a certain feeling a lot of the time. And I think by normal, average means, you can't do that, which is why people do the drugs, so they can achieve that thing. But then of course the drugs destroy their body, it destroys their mind, and they adapt to it anyway. So it's like a triple whammy where you're just destroying your body, you're destroying your mind for the sake of a little bit of dopamine, which is harder and harder to achieve because it's not natural. So, I don't know. That's kind of what my thoughts are at this part of the vlog. I know that was a bit of a rant. I might cut some of this out. I might leave it in, who knows. I guess you'll find out as you're watching this. So I guess by now you have found out, so. But yeah, so that was my little bit of philosophy for the beginning of this vlog. I'll see you soon. Let's go.
All right, so this is future Lenny here. So I originally recorded some footage right after doing this, like the day after was Ida's graduation. I'm going to put in a few videos of her at the graduation. I got a really bad seat. I kind of got like a weird angle, so that's kind of why you can barely see her, even though she's kind of like mixed in the crowd. I'll try to highlight it so you can see this. But basically, what we did is we just kind of went to the graduation, took a few photos. I'm going to post some of those. You'll probably see those right now. And literally like a day or two after that, we went to catch our flight. So we started going to California. So I'm going to skip ahead, kind of past the graduation stuff, past everything that happened after the graduation, just because I lost all the footage. And we're going to cut to 2 days after, en route to California. Finally heading to the airports. A little bit late.
Not really, because I'm going to go get my watch. I'll be right back.
We're almost about to head to the airport.
Give me a piece, babe.
She's gonna get her watch.
Thank you. I'll be right back.
So, a little bit late, but not terribly late. I think we can get there in time. The plan is to get to the airport, get to a parking garage, try to just park somewhere that's not super expensive, get in, check in, get on the flight, or at least be in the waiting area for the flight. I usually try to shoot for about an hour ahead of time, mainly because flights are inconsistent. Sometimes they have a delay, that's fine, and then sometimes they're early, and I don't like when they have like a weird schedule. So I like to do whatever I can in my power. Got a little notification. I like to do whatever is in my power to get there at an appropriate time. And I just feel like everything it's good when things are faster than expected, but you can always count on the airport being slower than you anticipate. Just when you check in, people are slow, people think there's free time. Me personally, when I like to travel, I like to go as casual as possible. Like, I'm wearing sneakers right now with laces. Even I would preferably like to have just shoes without laces, something I can slip on and off. But I don't have anything like that. My shoes that I have for that are in my bag, and I'm not willing to check them out. But it's fine, mainly because I found that when you board, that is like the slowest part, going through those gates and stuff like that. It just takes forever, and people always have like actual clothing. They make you take off all your jewelry, put them in the bin, put them on the conveyor belt, and that takes forever. So the less that I can wear, the better. What are your travel tips, miss?
Hi, everyone. My what?
Travel tips for going to like to the airport, go to the airport, all that stuff.
Don't get there late.
Don't get there late. That is
Don't follow me.
Don't
Do what I say, don't do what I do.
You guys heard it. But yeah, I like to dress light. Joggers, t-shirt, maybe a hoodie for the airplane or for the airport because it usually gets cold. Minimal jewelry, nothing like really metallic. I have a watch, that's probably the most, and beads on my wrist, but easy to take off. That's about it. Super easy to jump on. Vlogging. The good thing about this airport is that it looks really small.
Yeah.
And I feel like the longest part about the airports are parking and taking shuttles to the actual airport itself, and going through like with the TSA, where they check your bags and all that stuff. That usually takes forever. But I think
I think we're early.
Yeah, I think since this airport's so small, it's not going to be a lot of people. We're here at like 1 p.m., so it's probably not going to be a lot of like business type flights, if there are any business type flights at all here. And there's not a lot of traffic actually, so it's probably going to be a smooth entrance. So we're good.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I was nervous.
I was anxious about catching this flight on time.
Livy was like, you're late, you're late, you're late. We only have 30 minutes.
Yes.
And I'm like, we have 2 hours.
No.